Yo, we're back in After Effects, and in today's video I'll be showing you 3 best wiggle effects that you can add in your edit. These all look super smooth and it is really easy to do, so let me show you how to do this. So the first effect we'll be doing is this one, the wiggle light effect. I already created this, as you can see, but we're gonna hide this adjustment layer and create a new one right here, and I'm gonna show you how to do it from scratch. So after you create your adjustment layer on top of your second clip, we're gonna start by adding a white bubble from Sapphire. Yes, we'll be using Sapphire to do this because without Sapphire it is really difficult, and of course Sapphire comes in a clutch when it comes to distortion sensor, so we'll be using Sapphire white bubble. But anyways, in Sapphire white bubble, what we're gonna do is firstly go to the frequency, and from 16 we're gonna bring up the keyframes by hitting U and go to the end and just bring it up as it goes, so around 0.5 to all the way down, just turn it all the way down. So we have something like this of a frequency keyframe right there, and what we can do is easy those, go into graph and make a graph like this. A simple graph like this should work, and you can see it already looks hella smooth right there. That's exactly what we want. To do this graph, I also like to use something like a flow. It helps a lot with the workflow, so I'm gonna just add this graph in here that easily. Then now with it, we're gonna go over to the amplitude and hit the stopwatch in there as well as it goes. Just slow it down to 0, something right there. And you can also bring up the flow in here and make a graph like this in the flow, but that's a little too fast, maybe something like this, so it happens a little slower. Yep, that seems perfect to me. Now what we can do is go to versus seed and alt click on the stopwatch and add time asterisk, and we can set this to 50, so it just shuffles to all the seed and looks something like this. Yeah, something like there. Then after that we're gonna add a sapphire chroma, of course, and bring up the blurred lens and lower down the amount at first, so around 300 or some. Yeah, around 300, 0.300 I mean, and hit the stopwatch in the amount, go to the end around here and lower it down to 0. So we have a little bit of chromatic aberration there. Talking about chromatic aberration, you can also use sapphire wipe chroma right here and bring this up and bring up the steps and hit the stopwatch in zoom dust, go ahead and just slow it down to 1, so it has a little more of the chromatic aberration in the edges, and you can make a graph like this in here. And now after this we can add a little exposure in here and just make a flash at the beginning. Maybe play with the graphs a little bit more, something like this. And with that we're almost done. As you can see, we have a real smooth wiggle going on. That's right there. But if you wanna automate this process and skip all this keyframing headache, you can add a adjustment layer, of course, and go over to effects and presets, user presets, and if we have my essential effects v1 and v2, you'll get 80 plus presets in this pack combined, these two pack combined, and it comes with hella distortion using sapphire, so this is really a clutch. So if we add something like a best wiggle in here, you can see we have this crazy wiggle that looks smoother than this one. Actually, that looks smoother than the last one that we created, and it looks super impactful as well, which I love. So yeah, you can create these type of effects in one click using my essential effects. In v2 we got a lot more, something like warp distort, which is real cool. It is crazy type of distort right there. So yeah, I really recommend grabbing these two packs together, so you save a lot of time and you are stacked up with presets, 80 plus presets, and I can guarantee that every single preset in the pack is a masterpiece. It is created perfectly for your everything from graph and smoothness are really dope. So if you want to check it out, both of the pack, I'll link it in the description. But with that, I guess we're done with our first wiggles, and it looks something like that. Now we're gonna move on to our second wiggle, which is this type of wiggle right here. It is more smoother than that one, and it is a lot slower. So let me show you how to create this. This is really easy as well. So we're gonna hide this, of course, make a new adjustment layer, and we of course gonna start up with a warp bubble right here, and we're gonna bring up the warp bubble at first to around like 2. So yeah, 2. Let's just set it to 2 right there, and bring up the amplitude and hit the stopwatch in the amplitude. Go a bit further and set it to 0 right there. And right here we're gonna use a graph like this to easily like make the graph a little like slower right there. Yep, something right there. And then now to add more motion into this wiggle, we're not gonna be using something like what you can say like a seed animation. Instead we're gonna go to where it says rotate warp direction right here and hit the stopwatch in there. Bring up the keyframes, go a little further and bring it up to around like 1000 or something, so around like there. And then right after you play that, you can see it looks way more smoother than animating the seed. Of course, like it looks way more smoother. Now again, we can stack different effect onto this. So we're gonna stack another distort chroma in here. Bring up the distort chroma as usual. Hit the stopwatch in the amount as it goes. Just slow it down to 0, something right there. And in distort chroma as well, we're gonna go to rotate warp direction right here. Hit the stopwatch as it goes. Just like bring it up to around like 900 I guess, and make a graph like this. And in amount, I'm gonna add a graph like this. If you play that, you can see that looks super smooth. You don't even need a warp bubble after you add this type of like distort chroma. It will add a little like gentle wiggle in there, which I love. But with like warp chroma, that really like pops out, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that looks super cool. Now we can stack like exposure in here. Firstly, add an exposure, bring it up as it goes at the beginning, I mean right there. And then we can add another minimax, bring up the minimax at the start, and as it goes just slow it down to 0, something right there. And then you can add something like a camera lens blur and blur it, and not that much actually, something like this. And as it goes just slow it down to 0, so it looks like super smooth right there. And with that, we are also done with this one. Like this one looks real smooth. And if you don't already noticed, it is of course a preset from Essential FX V2. So if you have the pack, you can just add the hard wiggle 2 right here, and it will give you that look right there. You can see real smooth of a wiggle. So yeah, I'm just sharing the sauce from my pack, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, as I said, if you want to download it, I'll link it in the description. But with that, we're also done with our second wiggle. So let's just move on to our third. And our third wiggle will be this kind of like warp puddle kind of wiggle. It looks super smooth as well. So let me show you how to create this. So firstly, we're gonna hide this adjustment layer and add a new one to start it from the scratch, of course. And in this one, we're gonna add sapphire warp puddle right here, the FX sapphire warp puddle. We're not using warp bubble this time, we're using sapphire warp puddle. And put this anchor point thing in like the bottom, like in the corner, and just bring this up, the radius. And then we can go to where it says amplitude, and from 100 we're gonna lower it down to 0 as it goes, something right there. And then we're gonna bring up the frequency to around like here, maybe more, so around like 1.90 or some shit right there, and hit the stopwatch in frequency, and as it goes and lower it down to 0, so something right there. Maybe bring this up more. Yep, something right there. And you can already see like that looks super like smooth. So that's exactly what we want. I'm gonna select the amplitude keyframe and go into flow and make a graph like this, so it is a little subtle. Maybe you can bring up the amount a little bit more and something right there. Yeah man, that looks super smooth. I did it the other way last time, but I guess this looks insanely smooth as well. And now of course in here you can stack your FX. So I can add like a minimax, set it to horizontal this time, and bring up the radius, and as it goes just slow it down so it looks a little unique right there, maybe something like that. And bring up and add a camera lens blur in here and bring it up, and as it goes lower it down to 0. 0 or something right there. Maybe put it before the minimax if you like. Yeah, something right there. And now you're gonna add an exposure and bring up the exposure at the first, something right there. Yeah, exposure right there. And then you're gonna add something like a flicker to top it all off. Maybe put this before exposure, and as it goes, just lower it down the flicker to 0. And with that, easily you can add more effect onto this course, but I guess I'll leave it right here, and our third wiggle looks something like this. So yeah, that's it for today's video, guys. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button, and also subscribe to our channel. Follow me on Instagram because I keep dropping updates about like my new projects that I'm doing and everything. So yeah, if you follow me there, like you will be up to date to what's going on, and also see a behind the scene of like how a creator works and how a young creative goes by their life type shit. So yeah, if you wanna get some insights, just follow my Instagram, and I'ma see you on the next one. Peace.